Ever felt that, like, overwhelming feeling? You're suddenly in charge of a whole team or maybe just trying to figure out what makes a good leader, and it's like, well, you're totally lost.
Yeah, it's super common. Happens all the time. People end up in management roles, kind of by accident. No real guidebook or anything.
Exactly. So whether you're leading a team right now, hoping to someday, or even just curious about how good management actually works, stick around.
We're going deep today into The Making of a Manager by Zhuo. And this isn't like your typical boring business book. This one's packed with real-world practical advice for new managers, experienced ones, even entrepreneurs starting their own thing.
Seriously practical. And it's not just us saying that. The book's got praise from some pretty big names. Stuart Butterfield, Slack guy, Ev Williams, Medium and Twitter, Daniel H. Pink, the insightful dude, and Layla Janna, amazing visionary.
Those endorsements carry weight. These are people who've built and run successful companies, so they're not just throwing praise around lightly.
So this deep dive, think of it as your cheat sheet to understanding the core stuff about management, the essential insights, without having to read the whole book yourself.
And Julie Zhuo herself, she's a really interesting person. Brilliant hacker, first-generation American young mother. That's how she describes herself.
Right. And she comes from that Silicon Valley world, so her perspective is super fresh, super relatable.
Fascinating. Even before she got into management, she was always into drawing, building stuff, from Legos as a kid to making websites later on. It's like, looking back, you see how that led to building and leading teams.
Totally. And getting Facebook's very first engineering internship, come on, that's incredible. Facebook back then was tiny. She says they all fit in a backyard.
It gives you a sense of, how early she was there, how much she saw the company grow.
Yeah, like from backyard to global giant, that's some serious growth to witness.
And she makes it clear that even though her experience is from that specific tech world, the core principles of management, they apply anywhere.
That's our mission today, actually, extracting those core concepts, the stuff that's not just for CEOs and fancy offices. These are insights for teachers leading a classroom, coaches working with a team, anyone responsible for helping a group reach a shared goal. So some examples might be tech-flavored, but the lessons about feedback, building a positive environment, strategic planning, universal stuff.
Absolutely. Let's start with the basics. What is management, really? You might think initially it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, you picture someone like putting out fires, doing performance reviews, deciding who gets promoted, maybe even having to fire people, basic stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
But Julie's view goes deeper. She sees a manager as someone who builds a high-performing team, supports each person's growth, and creates systems to get things done.
And this is where it gets cool. The core of management, for Julie, is this belief. A team working together can do way more than any one person alone. It's about unlocking that potential, getting better results through collaboration, realizing you don't have to do every single thing yourself.
Exactly. That shift from your own work to empowering others, it's huge. She uses this great analogy, the lemonade stand.
Oh yeah, the lemonade stand. At first it's all about you, right? You're the star trying to sell all the lemonade yourself.
Then you realize, hey, maybe my time's better spent training Eliza and Henry to be better salespeople, even though that training takes time away from your own selling.
And the numbers show it. Say you spend 30 hours training them, and they each sell just 1 extra cup per hour because of it. That quickly adds up to more than what you could have sold alone in those 30 hours. Over a year. Thousands of extra cups sold.
And then, what if you recruit someone like Toby, a natural salesperson? Your output explodes. Same 30 hours spent recruiting Toby could lead to over 21,000 extra cups sold in a year. It's the power of good management, multiplying your impact.
So it's more than just checking boxes, like, I have these management skills. What makes a great manager then? What sets them apart?
Julie talks about 3 key areas great managers focus on: purpose, people, process.
Purpose being the shared vision, the big goal everyone's working towards. People making sure they've got the skills, the motivation, the right setup to succeed. And process, those smooth, efficient workflows that make everything work.
Exactly. And if you neglect any of those, problems pop up. Like with the lemonade stand, imagine bad ingredients or someone being rude to customers. The whole thing suffers.
So managing people well, it's about building trust, understanding everyone's strengths and weaknesses, including your own, being smart about who does what, and coaching people to be their best.
Now, why become a manager in the first place? A lot of times, it's seen as the next step up the career ladder.
The promotion, right. You get more influence, bigger challenges, maybe more money, more recognition.
And in many companies, you hit a ceiling as an individual contributor. So if you want to keep moving up, management becomes the path. Even in fields like, I don't know, customer service, you eventually have to lead teams to go further.
Julie talks about two main ways people end up in management. One is you want to grow your career, have more impact. The other is you get asked, maybe the company's expanding or someone sees potential in you.
But that second way has a risk. The I should do this feeling versus I really want to do this. She gives an example of a great designer who got asked to manage. She said yes, feeling obligated, but it wasn't a good fit. The team suffered when she eventually left.
Highlights the difference between a manager and a leader, right? It's not just the title.
Right. Leadership, anyone can show it, no matter their role. It's about seeing problems, motivating others to solve them. Like a store clerk who helps people during an emergency, or someone who rallies their community around a cause. Even an individual contributor who champions a customer issue across teams, that's leadership.
So problem plus bringing people together to solve it equals leadership, title not required.
And for new managers, building connections outside their team, their company even, can be super helpful. Julie's friend calls dinners with other founders informal CEO training. For Julie, it's meeting design managers from other companies. You can talk about common challenges, get fresh ideas, without sharing company secrets.
Okay, so you're a new manager. What are some things to help you thrive in that new role?
First thing, really take time to understand the team's dynamics. How things work, what's the vibe. Don't come in guns blazing, trying to change everything immediately.
Makes sense. You're stepping into an existing system. Observe, understand it before you shake things up.
Julie has some steps for new managers. 1. Ask your own manager clarifying questions. What are their expectations? What was the previous person in this role working on? What kind of support do they give their people? How do they recognize good work? What does a good working relationship look like to them?
Great starting points. Clear expectations, understanding your manager's style, that's key.
2. Be honest with your manager about what's going well and what's, harder than you thought. Julie gives an example. A new manager struggling to connect with other managers, which made influencing decisions across the company tough.
Transparency is huge there. Your manager can't help if they don't know there's a problem.
Exactly. 3. Ask for support. Not just from your manager, but your colleagues too. Don't be afraid to ask for help or advice. And finally, be upfront with your team. Let them know you're new, still learning, and ask for their patience and support.
So it all goes back to people, doesn't it? We started with management being about purpose, people, process.
And with small teams, while purpose is usually clear, it's mostly about the people and their processes, people being the most crucial part.
Andy Grove said something that fits perfectly here. He said the barriers to good work are either people don't know how to do it or they're not motivated to do it.
And that's where strong relationships, built on trust, are essential. It's about going beyond the surface level, being able to have those tough conversations about recognition, about the impact of someone's work, good or bad.
Like that unflattering sweater analogy, you need that level of trust to give honest feedback even when it's uncomfortable.
You be honest with a close friend you care about, even if it's awkward. Same with a good manager-report relationship.
So be human, not just a boss. What does that look like in practice?
Definitely not micromanaging. Julie tells a story about a talented manager whose feedback was, basically the team felt they had to get his okay for every little thing, instead of being empowered to manage their own work.
Empowerment, not dictatorship. And caring for your people doesn't mean always agreeing or making excuses, right?
Think about supportive people in your life. Parents, close friends, mentors. They care, but they also give honest feedback, even when it's tough to hear.
Which brings us to one-on-ones. What's the main goal of those meetings? What should they achieve?
Your report should leave feeling the time was valuable, focused on them. If it's just a nice chat, you're missing the point. As a manager, you're a multiplier for your people.
You help them be more effective, remove roadblocks, offer new perspectives, boost their confidence. How do you make those one-on-ones truly great?
Preparation. Productive conversations rarely happen randomly. Encourage your people to come prepared. Julie, she looks at her calendar each morning and jots down potential questions or talking points for each person she's meeting with.
And asking insightful questions is key. It's about understanding their perspective, not jumping to your own conclusions or giving unsolicited advice.
Exactly. You're not there to swoop in and save the day. You're there to empower them to find their own solutions. They're closest to the problem, they might have insights you don't. Let them lead, you listen, ask questions to help them clarify their thinking. Questions like, what's top of mind for you right now? That's a good starting point.
Feedback time. What makes feedback truly memorable, the kind that sticks with someone?
Memorable feedback inspires real, lasting change. Think about the feedback that's impacted you the most. It probably motivated you to improve in a real way.
Julie separates feedback into two types, task-specific and behavioral. What's the difference, and when do you use each?
Task-specific feedback. It's best given close to the actual task or event, while it's fresh. For routine stuff, a quick email or chat message can be enough. Make it a regular, lightweight thing. Praise a good summary. Suggest adding context to a presentation slide.
So it's immediate, focused, no big meeting needed. What about behavioral feedback?
Behavioral looks at patterns over time, from multiple instances of task-specific feedback. Is someone always making quick decisions without considering all options? Are they very structured, process-oriented? Behavioral feedback identifies these bigger tendencies.
It's interesting how often people say they want more feedback. Even small, frequent doses of positive and constructive stuff are valuable.
Aim for at least 50% positive feedback. Reinforce what they're doing well, recognize strengths, share positive things you hear from others. Don't shy away from offering small suggestions for improvement regularly either.
But giving feedback, clearly, that can be tough, right? What you intend to say isn't always what gets heard.
It's like the telephone game. Messages get distorted, influenced by body language, tone of voice, the listener's own biases. Julie tells a funny story about feedback she gave about long lunches being totally misunderstood.
So how do you make feedback actually land and lead to change?
3 tips. 1. Be specific. Avoid vague statements. Use clear examples and explain why you're giving the feedback, what was the impact. Instead of, your presentation was complicated, say, you had too many goals, or the next steps weren't clear.
Specificity is key. Gives them something concrete to work on. What's the second tip?
2. Clarify what success looks like. Even with specific feedback, they might not get the desired outcome. Paint that picture for them.
And number 3.
Avoid language that judges or attacks. No saying terrible or awful. The goal's improvement, not blame. And never give feedback when you're upset. Calm down first.
Giving direct, honest feedback, even critical feedback, is actually a sign of respect, right? You believe in their potential to grow.
Exactly. There's this idea called radical candor. It's about caring about their growth and being willing to challenge them directly.
I love the story about Julie getting that super detailed 20-page feedback report. Must have been overwhelming at first.
It was. But looking back, she says it was hugely impactful. It helped her calibrate her self-perception, understand her fears, see where she wasn't paying enough attention, a turning point in her self-awareness and growth.
Which brings us to managing yourself. It's the foundation for being a great manager, right? Knowing your strengths, values, comfort zones, blind spots, biases.
And everyone feels imposter syndrome sometimes. That feeling you're not good enough, you'll be found out.
Especially in high-achieving environments. It's that voice saying, you don't deserve your success, despite all the evidence.
But you can learn to deal with it. It's about finding techniques to navigate those feelings, not letting them stop you.
So how do you get to that brutal honesty with yourself? Really knowing your capabilities and limits.
Start by understanding your strengths. What are you naturally good at? What energizes you? Use frameworks like Strength Finder or just self-reflect. Ask yourself, what do I enjoy doing? What comes easily?
Then calibration. Making sure your self-perception matches reality. That can be tough.
Our self-perception can be off. We're too critical sometimes. Other times we overestimate ourselves. That's where the Dunning-Kruger effect comes in. People who are bad at something often think they're good at it. It's a blind spot for managers, too. Seek honest feedback from others to bridge that gap.
Asking your manager those calibration questions like, what should I do more of? What's holding me back? Super valuable.
And ask trusted colleagues for specific feedback. It's not about fishing for compliments. It's about creating a safe space for honesty, even critical feedback.
Mindset seems crucial here. How you view feedback, how you view challenges.
Absolutely. Seeing challenges not as tests of your worth, but as chances to learn and grow. That's the growth mindset.
Believing you can improve through effort, not just being born talented.
Beyond strengths and weaknesses, it's also knowing yourself at your best and worst. What environments help you thrive? What triggers negative reactions? This helps you design your work for success.
Julie talks about her best conditions. Enough sleep, productive start to the day, working with trusted colleagues, and the habits she changed to create that environment for herself.
Small adjustments add up. And everyone's different. Some people love early mornings, others need long stretches of focus. Know your preferences.
And know your triggers. What situations, interactions, behaviors, and others push your buttons.
Recognizing your triggers helps you manage your reactions better. Maybe even address the underlying issues causing those reactions.
Everyone deals with tough times. Julie calls it the pit. Feeling overwhelmed, stuck, down.
It's about normalizing those feelings. Avoiding the double tax of feeling bad about feeling bad. Remembering everyone's struggles. Acknowledging your feelings. Writing them down can help.
Visualization, too. Imagining a successful outcome, like making a color movie in your mind.
Yeah, picturing positive results, remembering even successful people like Sheryl Sandberg and Reese Witherspoon talk about anxiety. It's normal.
And celebrating small wins. Start a little wins journal.
It taps into gratitude, which has proven benefits for happiness. Acknowledge your progress, even small steps.
Self-care, setting boundaries between work and personal life, that's essential, too.
Absolutely. Prevent work from taking over your life. Prioritize your well-being. It's crucial for performing well long-term.
What about those big, scary goals? That feeling of needing to be twice as good just to catch up. How do you get better?
The answer is often simple, even if it's not glamorous. Practice and effort consistently over time. Embrace the process of gradual improvement. Julie talks about being an introvert and learning public speaking, leading groups. It's learned, not just something you're born with.
And asking for feedback seems like the secret to improvement. But it takes humility, openness to criticism.
Ask specific questions. It'll give you actionable insights. Always thank people for feedback, even if you don't agree.
Seeing your manager as a coach, not a judge, helps too.
Like a star athlete and their coach. Use one-on-ones for focused learning. Ask open-ended questions.
And you don't always need formal mentorship programs.
Sheryl Sandberg says, make a mentor out of everyone. Ask for specific advice from people with expertise you need.
And reflection, taking notes. Julie mentions her weekly and 6-month notes, tracking feedback, recruiting plans, project progress, personal goals.
Learn from successes and failures. And be open to feedback on your own processes. Even something like a team status meeting, changing it based on feedback can make a big difference.
Meetings. They're everywhere in a manager's life. You hear CEOs spend most of their time in them. And bad meetings. Huge time wasters.
Julie uses the Anna Karenina principle for meetings. Bad ones are bad in their own ways, but good ones share common traits. They use time well, people learn, outcomes are clear, everyone's engaged, and people feel welcome.
Face-to-face communication, or real-time interaction at least, is still so valuable for managers. Don't perpetuate bad meeting culture. So what makes a decision-making meeting great?
A clear decision is made, the right people are there, options are presented objectively, everyone gets to speak their mind, even dissenters. You want to avoid distrust in the decision, delays, flip-flopping.
Clarity, efficiency, those are key. And who you invite matters too.
For sure. Include everyone essential, but don't overload it with people who don't need to be there. Make sure stakeholders who will be affected are represented.
Help people come prepared too. Send materials in advance, presentations, agendas. Show you care, you're being intentional.
Clear follow-up is essential too. Communicate decisions, act on feedback, define next steps for ideas.
Making people feel safe to contribute, that's huge, especially for quieter folks who might not speak up easily.
Create a supportive environment where everyone feels comfortable sharing, even half-baked ideas. Directly asking quiet people for their input can help.
What about those group dynamics where a few people dominate? Any ways to even things out?
Structured approaches help. Go around the room, everyone gets a turn. Or anonymous ideas like writing on index cards before discussing.
And you, as the leader, manage the airtime.
For sure. Mediate interruptions, keep things on track, give quieter voices space to speak.
Ask for feedback on your meetings, too. Leading with your own concerns can encourage more honest critiques.
Aim for that friendly, curious vibe where people feel safe to share, disagree, respectfully.
And sometimes the best meeting is the one that doesn't happen. Question the value of recurring meetings. Cancel them if they're not achieving anything.
Now, hiring. It can be daunting, especially at first.
Julie talks about interviewing a new grad, Tom. He was nervous, but she saw his thoughtfulness, his potential, beyond just a polished presentation.
Define what good actually means for the role. Go beyond generic skills. Understand the nuances of the job, the team's needs. A recruiter who gets that is super valuable.
And sourcing strategy. Where will you find the right people? Brainstorm with your recruiter.
Make the interview experience great for everyone. Be attentive, focused, keep things moving, communicate clearly. It impacts how they see your company, even if you don't hire them. Treat everyone with respect.
That manager-recruiter partnership, like a Batman and Robin thing, it sounds essential.
Interviews aren't perfect predictors of success, though. You can't replicate the real work environment in an hour.
Diverse candidate pool is crucial too. Look beyond your immediate network.
Multiple interviewers help, too. Each one focuses on different aspects, gives a well-rounded view.
It's interesting how newer managers, the new guard, bring fresh perspectives to hiring, even if they do things differently from experienced managers. Value those diverse viewpoints.
And hire for potential, not just the immediate need. Look for people who can grow, take on more.
But be ready to meet some frogs along the way, as Julie says. There's uncertainty, potential for disappointment in hiring. It's part of the process.
See it as a funnel. Predictable conversion rates at each stage. Helps manage expectations, especially when hiring a lot of people.
Successful hiring, it's consistent execution over time. No shortcuts, just effort.
Hiring leaders, higher stakes. Take your time, research thoroughly, talk to lots of people who understand the role.
And even after hiring a great person, your work isn't done. There's still a multiplier for them, coaching, supporting their growth.
A strong bench lets managers focus on bigger things. And as your team grows, your ambitions should too.
A culture that prioritizes hiring well, that's the foundation for a great organization.
Okay, let's talk about making things happen, which brings us to process. The word sometimes sounds bureaucratic, but really it's just the actions you take, planned or not, to reach your goals.
Good processes help you execute, learn, move faster, make better decisions. Bad ones just get in the way.
Start with a clear vision. It should be bold, measurable, easy to grasp, and describe the outcome, not just the steps.
Like with Facebook groups, their initial vision was vague, then they shifted to the concrete goal of 1 billion people finding meaningful communities. Feedback showed them they needed that clear vision.
Once you've got that vision, create a strategy, a plan to get there. Plans change, but the process of planning is essential. Eisenhower said, "Plans are useless, but planning is indispensable."
Consider your team's strengths when planning. Build on what they're good at. Don't force them into things they're not.
Prioritization is crucial. Order tasks by importance. Focus on the critical path. Ask, if we could only achieve one big goal, which one would matter most?
Effort doesn't equal results. It's about the impact you make. Like Facebook's early photo product, they focused on one killer feature, photo tagging, instead of lots of smaller features.
Say no to good ideas to maintain focus. Steve Jobs said, innovation is saying no to 1,000 things.
Make it crystal clear who's responsible for what. Ambiguity kills progress.
Set ambitious but realistic deadlines. Work backward to define weekly milestones. Review progress regularly. Know the critical path tasks, the ones that can't slip.
Work expands to fit the time we give it. Break down big tasks into smaller steps with deadlines.
Great execution beats a perfect but poorly implemented strategy. A bad strategy will fail no matter what, but a good one can fail if execution is weak. Speed and accuracy matter.
Mistakes happen. Analyze what went wrong. Was it the strategy or the execution?
Iterate based on feedback and what you learn. Facebook's like button became reactions because people wanted to express more emotions.
Watch out for vanity metrics numbers that look good but don't reflect real progress.
Process is never done. It's always evolving. Debriefs, retrospectives, postmortems, they help you continuously improve.
Debriefs are a chance to reflect on what worked, what didn't, what to do differently next time. Collective accountability, sharing lessons learned. A good organization learns from its mistakes.
It's like navigating a river. Expect to slip, but learn from it and plan for the next crossing.
When your team grows beyond that small, tight-knit group, things change. What worked before might not work anymore.
The manager's role changes too. Less direct involvement, more about leading leaders.
Empowering those leaders becomes essential. It's about finding the balance between diving deep and trusting your leaders.
People treat you differently as you become more senior. It can be harder to get honest feedback.
Be aware of that dynamic. Encourage open communication, ask for dissenting opinions, reward people who speak up, own your mistakes, use inclusive language, ask for advice.
Context switching becomes the norm. Less focus time, more jumping between topics. You can't be the expert on everything anymore.
And core management skills become even more important at higher levels. Hiring, building self-reliant teams, setting vision, communicating clearly.
Don't fall into the trap of thinking a great manager takes on everything. You hinder your people's growth that way. The best work often comes from those closest to the problem.
Delegation is crucial for development opportunities, leveraging expertise, freeing up your time for bigger things.
Delegate things that let people learn, stretch their skills, align with their strengths. Don't delegate high-stakes stuff where they'll struggle without support, at least not initially.
What do good manager report conversations look like at the leadership level?
They focus on hiring, coaching, strategy, process.
What if a manager who reports to you is struggling?
Support them, believe in them. Remember, mistakes are part of learning, especially for leaders. Give feedback, mentorship, help them improve.
Leverage your team's diverse strengths.
If there's a big social event, don't just pick someone randomly. Delegate it to the person who loves organizing those things.
How do you balance short-term efficiency with long-term team development and delegation?
It's like the saying, give a fish, feed for a day, teach to fish, feed for a lifetime. Investing time to delegate and coach pays off in the long run.
You mentioned delegating based on your unique value.
As a senior leader, your value might be in vision, communication, operations. Focus on those, delegate the rest.
But if you delegate everything well, what's your job as a leader?
New problems always arise. Your job becomes identifying those, setting direction, fostering innovation, driving impact.
And team culture becomes more important as the team grows. How do you approach that?
Culture is often shown by what a team will sacrifice for its values. A team valuing ownership will empower people to make decisions, even if it means mistakes sometimes.
Actions speak louder than words. What are some ways to understand and shape team culture?
Brainstorm adjectives describing the current culture and the desired culture. Share proud moments. Identify the underlying cultural elements. Compare your team's values to the organization's values. Imagine how a journalist would describe your culture. Discuss common complaints.
And for shaping the culture you want?
Think about pitfalls to avoid, aspects of other cultures you admire or dislike. Communicate values and desired behaviors regularly, even if it feels repetitive.
Simple rules and incentives can backfire if they clash with your values.
Open discussions about values are usually better. If you value exploration, create a culture where it's okay to experiment and fail, not just focus on output.
Rituals and traditions can reinforce values, too.
If you value boldness and speed, maybe do regular hackathons for new ideas. Team traditions like weekly chats or annual events build bonds.
And most importantly, walk the walk. Your actions must align with the values you promote. So this whole management journey, it's not exactly a straight line, is it?
More like a toddler trying to draw a straight
Yeah.
line. Lots of wiggles and unexpected turns. But it's the learning that matters.
I can definitely look back and see times I felt lost, made mistakes, but having supportive managers, colleagues, a great team, that makes a difference.
And the learning never ends. Always more to learn, always striving to be better.
Just the other day, a new manager on my team said we've built a really strong, supportive team. It really hit home like, wow, these principles do make a difference.
It's often a collaborative journey. Julie, in her book, thanks all the people who helped her along the way.
So listener, you're always a work in progress. Embrace that, keep learning, keep exploring how these ideas apply to you.
One last thought. What one small change in your approach, inspired by this deep dive, could have the biggest positive impact on your own team, whatever that means to you?